Mr. Chair, I rise in support of my amendment, which states none of the funds made available by this act may be used to implement Section 24220 of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. My amendment is simple. It will defund the federal mandate that requires all new vehicles after 2026 be equipped with a kill switch that can disable a vehicle if the vehicle has monitored the driver's performance and that the vehicle determines that the driver is not performing well. It's so incredible that I have to offer this amendment. It almost sounds like the domain of science fiction, dystopian science fiction, that the federal government would put a kill switch in vehicles that would be the judge, the jury, and the executioner on such a fundamental right as the right to travel freely. But here we are. It is federal law that this is mandated, and so I am offering this amendment to defund this mandate. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Florida, the ranking member of the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee, Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I actually need 2 minutes, if that's possible, Mr. Chairman.
We'll do 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you very much. Lobbying in mid sentence. I rise in opposition to this amendment. Let me be clear. The act that the gentleman is trying to defund does not require auto manufacturers to install kill switches. It does not do that. Passive drunk driving technology is a vital tool in safeguarding our loved ones and other innocent people on our roads. This new technology offers a lifeline of hope to not only save lives, but to prevent the lifelong emotional toll and gargantuan costs these accidents inflict on families. Deadly drunk driving accidents can echo across generations, but we can seize this opportunity to stop such tragedies. Between 2019 and 2021, Florida saw a 31% increase in drunk driving crashes. In Mr. Massey's home state of Kentucky, 190 people were killed in drunk driving crashes in 2021 alone. That was a 26% increase. When we saw these grim statistics, we acted in a bipartisan fashion in Congress. And how often do we see that? Both Republicans and Democrats supported the HALT Act to require auto manufacturers to make this passive technology standard in new vehicles. The sponsor of this misguided amendment will tell you that he worries about privacy concerns. We heard the same inane calls with seatbelt requirements. But you don't have a right to engage in potentially fatal behavior that we know poses a major health threat to public safety. Passive drunk driving technology is pro-police. This anti-drunk driving technology lightens the load on police officers, allowing them to focus on more pressing safety concerns. The importance of this technology goes far beyond statistics. It's about saving lives, preventing heartbreak, and making our roads safer. It's a passionate call to action to prevent alcohol-impaired driving from shattering the lives of those we hold dear. This amendment, I understand, was dubbed the kill switch amendment, and it does not require a kill switch. It simply requires.
All right, I heard a gavel. She's done. That's the end of it.
You're like, that's it. You're done.
Of course, you went over time, but it's Debbie, as Rush Limbaugh famously called her, Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz. And by the way, everything she said there was a complete lie. I mean, technically, it's not a kill switch because there's no switch. It just disables your car. If the car, for whatever reason, thinks you're driving poorly. Yeah, and that's the reality, folks. Starting in 2026, cars will have technology, which, by the way, that was not the entire interaction. That went back and forth between Massey and the liars for the better part of 2 minutes.
Massey and the liars.
Yeah. I mean, and they were. I mean, to hear their arguments, too, just like, this is about stopping drunk driving. It's like, no, this is a machine in your car. There's no breathalyzer. There's no testing that you're drunk or anything. It's just, we think you're driving too erratically. And Massey brought up example after example. You got to swerve, avoid a pothole, a patch of ice, what have you. Your car's like, oh, you must be drunk. You're disabled now. And Blabbermouth says, oh, well, police they'll have more time to fight crimes. No, they have more time to rescue drivers who are stranded on the road because their car shut itself off.
Yeah. Well, my previous car had some of that stuff in there, like the lane keeping one. You can turn it off, but you're and if you kind of like swerve a little bit, it like bumps you back. And then the other one I don't remember what would cause it to come on, but it would say like, "You seem fatigued. Like, get a coffee."
Yeah.
Like, it would give me a message,
Yeah.
and that was just an escape. It wasn't like,
Yeah, and I mean, at least those are only annoying and not mandatory. But I just got this new phone because of that piece of garbage I had when we were on the stream last week, and the new AI crap is so annoying. It's like you get a text message and it gives me messages. Would you like to say this? Would you like to say that? No, I don't want to say those things. Oh, you said in this message the other day. Still haven't heard from so and so. Do you want to follow up on this? No, I don't. Thank you. I don't want. I do not want your help. You're a freaking idiot machine, and you don't know what the reality is at all.
yeah, that's
AI was
crazy.
the brilliant mastermind of Israeli defense forces because it was going to predict what's going to happen. That worked out really great, didn't it? So anyway, hey guys, welcome to the live stream. Patty is joining us once again, and the 12th Congressional District Chair Jessica Toth. It's Toth, not Toth. Am I correct?
Yes,
and,
correct.
And we may have another guest on the program at any moment. Emily Bauman, who just won her race for Westland City Council. So we may have the opportunity to talk to them about that in a moment. But anyway, I guess in the meantime, because I think Emily's going to come on any moment. She said she was on like some kind of conference call or something. But there have been some things in the news in the past week, including tonight, the news that Javier Milei has won his race to become the new prime minister of Argentina, which I don't know if you saw any of the headlines about what a disaster he would be, but the establishment was absolutely panicked about the prospect of this guy winning. And I saw actually, before talking about that, I did want to bring this up on the screen. There was a vote on that Massey amendment, by the way, and I don't want to lose track of that before we move on. But we do have that. This is the results of the roll call vote on that. The amendment failed. Thomas Massey's amendment failed. There is still a kill switch in the cars coming up, and you have 19 Republicans who voted with all the Democrats. Remember, Wasserman said it was bipartisan. A whole 19 Republicans voted yes on this, for the money, by the way. And only 2 Democrats voted with everybody else on the Republican side, including, interestingly, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And there was one other one, but otherwise the Democrats all voted the same. And so his amendment was defeated. But anyway, yeah, Javier Milei, who I think we talked about him on the show a month or so ago, and he's like a Ron Paul nerd, basically. This is what he is. And that might be a good thing, and might be in some ways a bad thing. Although I'm a Ron Paul nerd, so I think it's mostly a good thing. But this guy, I saw this article. He, by the way, if you haven't seen this picture, this is hilarious. This is the photo that they wave at his rallies. The sign they wave at his rallies. He looks almost like Malcolm McDowell from A Clockwork Orange in this picture, but he's going to take a chainsaw to the government of Argentina, and his dogs have some interesting names. He has 5 dogs. Their names are Murray, which is absolutely named after Murray Rothbard. Milton, absolutely named after Milton Friedman. Robert and Lucas, named after Robert Lucas, another libertarian economist. And Conan, who is the clone of his father, who was also named Conan, named after Conan the Barbarian. So that's Javier Milei. We will see what happens in Argentina in the next couple of years. But I tend to think it's going to be a good thing when the establishment media is just like begging the people of Argentina not to vote for this guy, and now he's the new president of Argentina. But we'll see. He says he loves America and he hates communism, but that might also play out strangely because Argentina just joined BRICS, which is, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now also Egypt and some other states. But I don't know that America, as Henry Kissinger said, America is a worst enemy, and it's your worst enemy and your even worst friend. So I don't know. We'll see. He wants to peg the Argentinian dollar on the U.S. dollar, which might not be a great thing. Jay Michaud said, I saw an interview with the new Argentinian prime minister. He seems like someone I'd like to see elected in Michigan. Yeah, I hope so. I certainly wish him the best. Argentina has been in a very bad place for a very long time. But anyway, We're going to talk about a lot of bad bills tonight, folks. It's time for a recap of all the horrible, horrible things the Michigan legislature has done. And I'm leaving to go visit family for Thanksgiving. My family, they're all, well, pretty much all of them are Democrats. They live in California. And, we need to have as much intellectual ammunition in the stockpile as possible. So we're going to go through some of the most extreme, crazy things that the legislature has passed in the past year. But I still want to give Emily a little more time. I don't know. And Jessica, if you want to DM her or IM her or something and see if she's still stuck on this call. If she
I am. Yep, I will. I'm texting her right now.
Another time. It's not
sure.
Rush, but and maybe you want to just say a little bit about how this race went, because the thing that struck me, and I have to admit, I kind of wrote her off because she's run for state house, I think twice now, in a very blue area, and it's like, it's Westland. What shot does anybody have there? But she won, and she shocked everybody in Westland by winning. So if you want to talk about that a little bit and maybe give her maybe she'll come on in a moment, but if you want to kind of set the table here, because that's awesome. That you
sure. It was definitely right. No, she ran in 2020. She'd run for the state house, and then it was for the Senate this last time. She was running against Dana Pohanke. But that, has helped get the name recognition out, and that's certainly what helped her this time. Again, we had a lot of help from the district. Also, Paula Nacke and the Wayne 12th was very instrumental as well. We had a lot of support people, a lot of delegates getting out to support her. We had Grand New Party, LaRouche Pat come and help. We did actually, door knocking. And so, now that she had some name recognition, and then also, a lot of the businesses now were taking note and knew who she was, that was definitely a help. And certainly, from my understanding, talking to some of the city council, they were shocked. They, like you said, they had also, didn't really think she had a chance, and ended up, was able to she won the partial term, and then also secured the 2-year term.
Nice.
As well.
Okay, I do remember them saying that, to vote for her twice somewhere. So that's what that meant. Like, she was on there.
Right. Because the one city council, so he would, when former Mayor Landau, that he was appointed, so that created a vacancy at the time back in January. So that term was only effective until basically the election here, a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, when that happened. So yeah, that she basically took over. Whoever won that took over immediately till the end of the year. And then the new 2-year term started in January.
That's
yeah. So when I saw you, last week, I said, hey, I told you, I knew it wasn't, a lost cause. And again, in this area, it's going to take more than one time to run, but that's where she had the advantage and had the, she had the name recognition.
Yeah. And I have to admit, I didn't think it, it was going to be realistic, and she pulled it off. And, it just goes to show that you never know where the weaknesses are in the other side. Sometimes, in fact, I remember hearing the term once, political zombies. And I remember the first time I heard it was applied to this U.S. Senator Ted Stevens in Alaska. And everyone thought he was absolutely unstoppable. He was entrenched. He'd been in Washington for years, if not decades. He had all the lobbyist money. And so nobody just knocked him out because he took his race for granted, and voters don't like being taken for granted. And it's a testimony to the fact that if you run candidates everywhere, and if they all run their best races, it won't always succeed, but they can succeed. And now she has the ability to, use that bully pulpit. And I correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was an at-large race, which means it wasn't just a district within Westland. It was the entire city of Westland.
Correct.
Which is even more impressive, by the way. But also it means that now she has the ability to talk to voters all over Westland and say, here's all the crazy stuff my colleagues are doing, because they probably haven't heard it from anybody.
I agree. And for the first time, I feel there is, I feel hope for Westland. And I've lived here almost 20 years, and I feel, now, that finally we can have the change and the services that, we as the residents deserve. And I felt a lot of that was always lost on some of the previous council, because they weren't always listening to the residents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
a
having
huge
that one
check.
voice, having that one voice is important. Like here in Plymouth Canton, we have one voice on the school board, and Cheryl Picard, and but she's so strong and she's so good, and she has, so the other side is finally getting out there, and what people are hearing both sides
Mhm.
if they go
Yeah,
to a
it's
meeting.
a huge check. We have someone in
Yeah.
Washtenaw County who used to be an Ypsilanti township board member, and she's been she's a former Democrat, but she's been very, very active in local politics. And our county commission now is all Democrats, and she's like, you have to have at least one person to be able to be there, to be the watchdog, to be the check on them, because when they have total power, it's they go absolutely crazy and they go extremely corrupt. They feel like nobody's going to stop them from doing anything, and the amount of abuses they've done over the past few years are just outrageous. Everything from spending taxpayers' money to put felons, convicted felons, child rapists, murderers into our schools. They did that this year. It just doesn't stop. But to have even one person who's blowing the whistle can be a huge thing. So hats off to Emily.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Matt Wilkes comment that the door knocking absolutely made a difference. So I mean, yeah, and talking to people, even myself, it was a good chance. And Westland unfortunately has been plagued. As Paula noted, right, it was very, very close among the top 4 candidates, but Westland has been plagued by, we aren't getting a lot of businesses, or when they come, they're only here for a couple of years, they leave. We have a high tax structure. None of these things has been addressed. And that's why, again, we're not getting people or families with young kids. There's an exodus from the city, and she wants to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good.
Well, how was your participation in the door knocking days? Because we didn't get much.
Well, it helped. It definitely helped with having Shane Trejo, and also we had Amber from LaRouche Pack, and also so that we did quite a bit. Paula, I know, did quite a bit of canvassing herself. So we had some delegates. We also had some from outside the area that were also able to do phone calling and texting.
Because I know our candidate in Plymouth, at least, he door knocked Ron Picard. He door knocked all of Plymouth twice. So, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, I guess, but he did all the right things.
So. Yeah, every bit helps. I did some door knocking today, and I was knocking with Dale Banicki, who's challenging Regina Miller for the state house seat. And we didn't have too many people come, but the ones that did, I mean, everybody talked to someone that made it, that made some difference to some voters. I talked to a voter, and she was just, cleaning up outside her garage, and I was like, hey, I'm out here volunteering for this guy, Dale Banicki, who's running for state rep, because our current state rep is a partisan extremist and votes with the Democrats 99% of the time and sponsors all these crazy things. And she's like, yeah, I hear all this stuff in the news. I don't believe any of it. I'm getting all these mailings now from Democrats, and we go on. And so I had this before I even went for the walk. I was like, you know what? I think one of the biggest things that's going to resonate with voters is the fact that this woman just co-sponsored a bill to give free heroin needles funded by taxpayers to junkies. So I had and I was, one of the things we were talking about before we went out was I've noticed in the field, and by the way, that's another big reason to knock on doors, is because you get a sense of things, is it's difficult to persuade voters to even believe these things are really happening. So before I went out, I pulled the bill up on the legislature's website on my phone, because I was like, if we have a voter that needs to see this, I'm going to show them the bill with her name on it. And sure enough, I'm like, here's what she did. Here's the bill. And I show her the link to the page on the website that says, Regina Miller, co-sponsor of House Bill 5178, gives syringes to junkies. And she's like, yeah, instead of giving insulin needles to diabetics, right? That's what their priorities are. She was furious. And then I gave her, Dale's flyer, and she's like, thank you. Every single time you reach somebody by doing these things. So it's so important to go out there and hit these doors.
No, I agree. I mean, because even my conservative neighbors, I found that to be true as well, Adam. A lot of them don't have any idea of the horrible, legislation that's coming out of Lansing, or even knew how our rep was voting, or in general what was coming out. So
yeah,
and we're shocked when you give them some of the information. Yeah,
Daniel says door knocking in Macomb County is like pulling teeth, and I think he means the same thing we're talking about, which is getting people to just do the damn thing. And I mean, it's incremental, folks. Like we were knocking on doors over the summer, and someone did it for the first time, and she discovered she likes it. She's good at it. She's talented at it. Like, wonderful. I want you to be our grassroots chair and call these people and get them to start knocking on doors, because when you get to that door where you make the difference, that's when you realize how important it is and you start really doing it. Also on Rumble,
plus it helps. I mean, how you can find new precinct delegates too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can think of some precinct delegates that need some competition. On Rumble, it's me against I says, imagine getting stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, in the middle of a snowstorm because the system malfunctioned and thinks you're drunk. Yeah, I mean, that's the entire reason why this is so insane. And again, as we see in Lansing, almost every single Democrat voted for that damn thing. Every single one. And they just bought this completely bunk talking point that, oh, this is to prevent drunk driving. The machine doesn't know if you're drunk or not. It doesn't do any checks. It just says, yeah, we think you're swerving too much. And actually, as Matthew pointed out, the automakers don't even know how they're going to implement this. Is there going to be just a sensor that decides based upon how you drive? Are they going to have a camera in your car to keep an eye on your eye movements? All kinds of crazy stuff I'm sure they're thinking about doing.
Well, they have that for the autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
know
if
if hands off. The F-150 Lightning has that stuff. It can tell. It'll tell you, eyes on the road, please.
Yeah, I would never drive a car that had had that technology in it. I mean, I'm one of those people that puts the the duct tape over the phone on my laptop, or the camera, because it's not their damn business. Anyway, Paula also says Emily's also very active at city council meetings. She asks questions that she doesn't want answers to. She doesn't just grandstand. Well, that's great. And we've got a guy running for county commission in our county who's doing a lot of the county commission meetings. And I do think it's important to do that, to get acclimated, to know what the issues are that the county commission or whatever the body is that you're running for is doing. I don't know that being there in and of itself affects votes, because most voters have no idea what your city council is doing. They have no idea what your county commission is doing.
Exactly. We found that to be true also.
Yeah. I mean, they just assume nobody's watching. And for the most part, it's true. But that's what we're here to correct. And I guess with that, we should probably take a look at some bills here. Although, actually, one more thing I want to mention, because this has come up in my county in the past week. There's been this back and forth about this. I hate to go back to the MI GOP stuff, because we talked about this a lot on Wednesday, but we talked about this amicus brief that the party just boasted they had filed that was the game changer, and the judge agreed with us, and blah, blah, blah. And some people said it doesn't look like that brief was ever actually filed. And the jury is still out on this. At first, when someone said, are you sure that this brief wasn't filed, or the court didn't accept it, or what happened? And I was like, well, this brief, and the MIGOP took credit for it, but it was apparently drafted by the ACLJ. And the ACLJ has this thing on their website that says, huge victory. And in fact, let me pull it up here. Let's see here. This is the story. Huge win. Judge agrees with ACLJ brief representing 7 state Republican parties throwing out Trump ballot ban lawsuit. The second time in just a few days. And there's been another one, I think, in Colorado, too. A state judge has thrown out a lawsuit attempting to ban President Trump from the ballot. This time, the Michigan court agreed with our amicus brief. And you see all this stuff and you think, there's no way this brief wasn't filed, because the Michigan GOP might not be a serious organization, but the ACLJ is. But everyone looking at the court record says we don't see it. And the other interesting thing,
Matt got confirmation on that. I think there's confirmation on that.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure it's been final, but we'll follow up on that. But it's definitely in question. I was surprised it could be, because again, the ACLJ doesn't seem like a group to make a mistake like this. But one thing I did notice for sure is, if you go to their brief, none of the arguments they make, none of the cases they cited were actually used by the court, which it does not mean it was a bad argument. I think it was a very good argument. In fact, here's what they say here. Let me switch to the tab. I mean, here's the basics of it. Under the
there's Jonathan.
Constitution, the 14th Amendment's not self-executing. Yeah, Jonathan says the brief was not accepted. I will still wait until I'm absolutely certain about this. He says it's double confirmed. Okay, well, when it's double confirmed with me, I'll report it officially. But it sounds like this has been confirmed. But but nevertheless, the argument, and again, these are fine arguments. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is not self-executing. And the First Amendment protects the parties and candidates' rights to freely associate for purpose of engaging in political advocacy and expression. Fine arguments, but not the arguments that the court in Michigan used to make the dismissal. They said it's not ripe because Trump is not yet the nominee, even much less the elected president, which I think is actually kind of a weak argument, but that's the argument the court went with. And also they said that it's a political question. They use political questions doctrine. And none of the cases the judge cited were any of these cases. So yeah, even if this amicus brief was cited, I maintain what I said on Wednesday, which is that nobody reads amicus briefs anyway. They don't really pay attention to them. And the MIGOP just took credit for something they didn't do. So, all right, with that out of the way, let's look at some bills, guys. I wasn't sure I was going to do this. I think I have to. We're going to just we're just going to plow through the list here because there's so damn many of these, and I've got like a list of things that we have to cover, but I think we can probably get through most of these. There's only 2,000 bills. but no, seriously, folks, we're going to skip over a lot of these, but just to hit some of the big ones. And there's a lot of duplication here. My highlighting is not, this is, by the way, this is a document that we use on Operation Watchdog for people to make notes about bills and things before I import them into the Rescue Michigan website database. And that's what shows up on our page. I'm going to probably try to figure out some way to make it so that people can just scroll through these on our site. But usually when you have 2,000 bills, it's kind of a lot for a website to open. But we've got some big ones here, and we'll talk about not even most of these, obviously, because some of these are relatively small, but the big ones, the worst ones, and also in general, I want to come at this from the perspective of what are the things I want to talk about with my family when I see them at Thanksgiving, because we got the Thanksgiving Day dinner chats coming up. And, I could tell them, hey, would you believe they passed they blocked the tax cut in one bill, spent $1 billion, and also gave the government employees a pension tax cut. Huge bill, but not necessarily the great talking point. Repealing right to work, also a huge deal. I don't know if it's the best talking point I'm trying to come from the perspective of how do we persuade Democrats that what they're doing is crazy. And there's a few bills that really do stand out here. Let's talk about some of them. Here's probably the first big one: repealing the third grade reading law. This is a bill that just says you can pass people out of third grade that can't read at all. At which point, how are they going to ever succeed in school if they can't read? How are they going to handle fourth grade if they can't read? That's a big one. And of course, this is one that did this one pass? I'm certain it did. Let me double check here. Hold on. Let's just look up that bill number real quick, since I have that ability, and you do too, of course, on Operation Watchdog. House Bill 4020, repeal the third grade. No, it did not get a vote. Interesting. I think there might be a Senate version, though. We'll come back to that, because I think it did. I'm almost certain it did. I recall vividly it did.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been the Senate version. What else do we have here? We have about 1 billion bills on legalizing abortion. I think the most interesting ones and the most powerful ones and the most important ones, especially talking to Democrats, are late-term abortion. That and the child sexual mutilation stuff that was thrown into a number of them. Because
but won't that be in the mind of the average voter that already passed by Prop 3 passing, right?
Well, yeah, except that they don't understand Prop 3 any better either. You have to say to them.
To me, I think that's getting in the weeds as far as, if you're going to door knocking.
They legalized killing living babies. We're not talking, people, fresh from conception babies. We're talking 9 months pregnant babies. We understand that, right? I know. Well,
but you got to think about it in terms of who's answering the door.
Yeah.
And in their mind, but when Prop 3 passed, they don't realize then they had to write all the legislation after the fact,
Yeah. Well, okay. And
no point,
my family are all pro-aborts. In fact, some of them have had abortions, but not 7 months in, you know? So I would make the point, listen, every pro-abortion group in America does not support any bill that doesn't legalize all abortions, late term, no exceptions, abortion on demand. There is no abortion group in America, and there's no Democrat in Michigan in our legislature or anywhere else, frankly, that doesn't support removal of every single kind of restriction on late term abortion. We've passed laws that limit the ability of people to investigate murdering children who survived abortions. That's how extreme our bills are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a video of like people being interviewed and saying, well, that say, do you support abortion? Yes. You support late term abortion of viable babies? Oh, no, not those. That's where the distinction has to be.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through some more of these here. Oh, there's another, maybe this was the bill that repealed the third grade reading law. Let me just check on that real quick, just in case that was it. You know, the part
Right. Yeah, Jay. See, that's kind of how I thought too, Jay, what you said.
What? Oh, no, that's a different comment. I'll come back to that one. I didn't even realize they were going to pass a bunch of legislation. I thought the ballot proposal was the end of the story. Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. Up until Proposal 3, Michigan had the most robust anti-abortion law in the country, but it was inactive because of Roe v. Wade. So once Roe v. Wade was overturned, that law would have kicked back in. It was stayed by a court for a while. But the way it works is a constitution can say X, a judge can say Y, and the statute can say Z. And just because the voters passed a constitutional amendment, a court might even uphold the constitutional amendment. But if you don't have an enacting statute, they don't have that backstop anymore. Mindy says, I'll never understand why Republicans won't compromise on this, like a heartbeat bill. Once a heartbeat is detected, no abortion. Well, the thing I would say to that
wasn't
is,
there a compromise on the table last year at like 15 weeks or something? And
there was a heartbeat bill. There was I think a pain capable bill.
In Michigan,
so the reality is the
before
Democrats are the ones that have no compromise.
Was even a thought. There was a compromise, my understanding, but yeah, we didn't compromise.
Yeah, and actually one of the issues that was going on at the time was that I think it was Right to Life was very concerned about I forget which was which, but one of the bills they were concerned was going to weaken the abortion law because we had a law that said no abortion period before Prop 3 passed. And so they opposed the bill saying this might actually weaken the abortion law we already have. I forget if that was the pain capable one or the heartbeat one or whatever. Stephen Gothal says life begins at conception. I agree, but here's the issue. It's a question of what the voters believe. And that's why we have to talk through these issues. And
I mean, wouldn't at this point, wouldn't a 15-week compromise be better than what we have? And that would have been a partial victory. And then you continue on to make it more, harder.
Yeah, that wasn't what was on the table. On the table was a constitutional amendment to legalize all abortion, late-term abortion. And
no, there was something in the legislature, and we voted it. The Republicans wouldn't compromise. That Whitmer would have signed.
I don't think Whitmer would have signed that. Not in a million years.
I'm pretty sure last year there was one. Yeah.
No, they were running a ballot proposal. Is what it was. They're running a citizen-initiated law. I mean, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe we'll have a fallback on the next show. But I mean, I remember this vividly because Steve Carr was involved in one of those. I think it was the heartbeat ban. But anyway, what is before us is the constitutional amendment, Prop 3, and the laws the Democrats all passed, which all were all abortions, all the time, on demand, no requirements, no regulations. They even passed a bill to allow for student health services to provide abortion referrals. So you have to say to people, what we have is the most extreme thing conceivable. And that's what the Democrats went for. And they just deceived the voters and they didn't talk about it. To the point that literally in Michigan, it's okay to kill a living baby. That's how far they went with it. Anyway, let's try to get through these because we're going to be here all night if we don't. Jonathan says we should take harder stances. I'm sure it won over more voters than from the WF globalists. Well, I mean, this is, and Coulter says this kind of stuff too. We're losing on abortion. Let's not talk about the abortion issue. Well, if abortion is your issue, and for some people it is, they would say the reason why we lose is because we don't enforce our values within our party. We have tolerated Republicans never doing anything on abortion for year after year after year. And the result is that we've lost and lost and lost and lost. All right, but let's get back to looking at some bills here. Mandating kindergarten, I think some people that will resonate with that they, and by the way, the bill also mandates public education kindergarten. You can't even do private education. You can't do homeschooling. It says it mandates every parent put their child into a government kindergarten. Let's see. Let's start moving through these here because we got a ton of these things. In the beginning, I was doing these like shadings to indicate when bills are a package, but that's not all that important here. Big another pile of abortion bills there. The traffic cameras, the robocops, and this kind of dovetails in what Debbie Blabbermouth was talking about at the beginning, is cameras that are going to start ticketing you. This has been one of the most corrupt things that have been in any state. There have been judges sent to prison in state after state, judges, state lawmakers, lobbyists, all kinds of corruption has come wherever there have been these automated traffic cameras. And it's a violation of how many rights? Your right to due process, your right to face your accuser, because the machine becomes your accuser effectively. Steven says Ohio has that for years. Yeah, a lot of jurisdictions have, and they've been disastrous, and a number of them have been repealing them. Matt says Patty is correct. In 2019, there were 2 passed pieces of legislation on abortion: a ban on D&E, which is more commonly known as dismemberment abortions, and a viability standards. Both are rendered irrelevant in 2022. So there you go. Was that 2019? So that was Whitmer's first term. I am hard pressed to believe you signed those, Matt. I will eat crow and admit I'm wrong if I am, but I would be shocked if that was correct. Anyway, let's get back to looking at some other things. We got the big pile of gun ban bills. I saw a survey that said 67% of voters support gun rights, 65% of voters support abortion in general. And these are all hideous. Many of these bills are bills that are going to take people's gun rights away. And there's more coming, by the way, as we go further down this list, but these are the worst of them. The red flag law, probably the worst of the worst. You can just have an accuser say you're dangerous and have your guns taken away. An ex parte proceeding, which means you don't have any ability to face your accusers at all. It's like, actually, we just saw in our county, we just watched The Plot Against the President the other day, which if you haven't seen that movie, watch that movie. But Mike Cernovich is like, he explains what ex parte hearings means. And he says, imagine you were being sued, but you weren't allowed to know you were being sued. And you weren't allowed to have counsel. And you wouldn't know you were even being sued because they never tell you. And then they go, oh, you've just lost your lawsuit. That's what the ex parte hearing is. You have no even knowledge that you've been accused of anything. And the judge just takes your guns away based on an accusation, which they rubber stamp all the time. Universal gun registration, banning of all private sales of firearms, lock up your safety laws, additional liability if the guns in your home are not secured. And there's now also, they also passed this other one, banning farms within 100 feet of a drop box. Hope you don't live too close to a drop box. They passed that one too. And there's more, lots of gun bans in government buildings. Stephen Gothal says Holton Township, Muskegon County, 2A sanctuary county, also forming militia. Well, we'll see how that goes. Jay says, how do ex parte hearings even exist in the U.S.? Well, in FISA courts, which is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Courts, it's because they just say, well, we need to fight terrorism. If we were to actually inform people that they were being accused of being dangerous, then they might do something dangerous. That's how they get away with it. And it's disgraceful. It should not be constitutional, but a thing is constitutional until a court says it's not. That's the reality that we live under. Lots and lots of interesting bills on 17-year-olds. That they can't be tried as adults, that they can't be sentenced to life without parole for mass murders. Mark Ashley Price says, I hope Councilman Bauman's able to attend this evening episode. I hope we see her too. We'll see. Jeff says Holton Township only, not the county. Well, I mean, I don't know where Holton Township is. I would wager they have a county sheriff, so the township's not gonna make any difference. But we'll see. What are some of the other huge ones here? Let's see here. Another 14-day waiting period. I don't think that one passed yet, but they introduced it. And yeah, the list of co-sponsors is a who's who of all the Democrats. We have, let's see, here we go. Oh no, these are Republican bills, which all got sent to the, oh, they got sent to the Criminal Justice Committee. Better than the Government Operations Committee, I suppose. But it doesn't matter because guess what, folks? They passed a bill just to allow irreversible sex change procedures in children. One victory we did have, although there's still plenty of Democrat fingerprints on the bill, is shoot, the number. Let me see if I've got the number handy. I want here, let me try this. This will find it. Yeah, 4087. Oh, we skipped over that one. These two did pass to define homeless youth and allow safe harbor for youth at a shelter, but this was the one they wanted and they didn't get because of the attention we put on it. Was a bill to allow runaway children to get themselves castrated without their parents' consent or knowledge. 4087. And again, a who's who of co-sponsors, including some Republicans, by the way, who apparently expressed regret about it after we told them about it. But there you go. Anyway, what else do we have? This one passed. These two both passed, actually. More than these passed. Here, the three to talk about: 4230, 4233, and 4234. These are some of these bills that is going to alienate Democrats right there, because Democrats have sort of a hostility towards money in politics anyway. What do you think they're going to think when they see Democrats passed a bill to allow for automatic payroll deductions to go to political action committees and to have their union dues spent on political campaigns, which is in 4230. And even to allow union bosses to extract dues personally from their employees, 4233. They passed all of those unanimously, of course. And our guest tonight is here. So we're gonna put this away for now because I have a feeling some people are gonna be like, dude, you're not gonna read this whole list to me, are you? So we'll come back to that in a moment.
That's what I'm thinking.
But please welcome Emily Bauman, who, congratulations, Councilwoman-elect, is it? Or no, you're Councilwoman now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's official.
I was officially sworn in last Monday. So I'm, official Councilwoman. It was Councilwoman-elect for like 6 days.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And I guess you weren't here when I said it, but I apologize because as a race, I didn't think you had a real shot in. And you made it. And I am eating crow, and I'm going to be the first to admit it because my hat's off to you. And I hope more people are inspired to run even in difficult districts because you just never know.
Right. You don't know.
And you can, and if nothing else, you're at least going to give them a run for their money. And if they don't spend the money,
well, I know.
Win.
I'm already doing that. I'm already stepping into something there. There's an agenda item that I have a lot of questions on, and my biggest question right now is, does the end justify the means? If you don't like the way it was done before, but you like the answer to this one, do you do what you didn't like before just to get this answer? And I'm being told that some people say yes.
What's this in reference to?
Actually, bringing on a new position. So on the agenda item is to create a brand new position in a department that I'm 100% supportive of expanding this department. But normally when you do that, it's already in the budget. There's no budget for this person. So for this position. So the question is, okay, well, how do you go about adding a new position? Well, you go through a study session, you do certain things, you do things, but there's a lot of people that really like the idea that they're expanding this department. So they want to prove it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, do we raise our bar a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the question always has to be where's the money coming from?
Well,
Because
that's it.
they always complain.
Mhm.
We never have enough money. We don't have enough money. It's like, well, but now you see we don't have enough money for this.
What
thing.
I've been finding is we watch like Plymouth City Commission and even, Township Board or whatever, and they just like, well, let's just pass it and then we'll figure it out.
Right.
That
Well,
seems
Yeah.
to be the mentality, like kind of like Obamacare, but we've got to pass it to find out what's in it or whatever, remember? And it just seems to be how everyone is thinking.
And
Yeah.
I'm being
good.
told, and I'm being told, well, this is how the former administration would do it. And I said, but you didn't like that. And like, no, I didn't like that. I go, then why is it okay now?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to spend money, you got to raise taxes. We're not like the federal government that can just print money out of thin air. And what are you? I mean, and they always beat us up over these things too. You say you want to cut taxes. Well, what are you going to cut to be able to afford a tax cut? It's like, well, yeah. Well, then why do you think we're made of money to be introducing more spending on this or that or the next thing? By the way,
yes.
you caught us as we were going through some really horrible bills, and I happened to just see these. These came in literally after they adjourned this past Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lovely bill, which sounds wonderful. We're going to increase regulations on blood lead level testing. And this is House Bill 5368. Then they have House Bill 5369. Mandate children with elevated blood lead be eligible for free medical services. How are you going to pay for all this? Well, introduce House Bill 5370. What does it do? Tax paint. That's what they're going to do. They're going to impose a tax on paint because you got to get the money from somewhere. So just tax paint. It's who cares? Nobody needs paint, but that's what they do. So
well, that'll affect all of our. I know some of that'll affect actually directly because she does her company is called WePaintHouses.net.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah,
everything's going to go up.
You're talking about one of your colleagues?
Yes, no, actually, someone in Livonia. It's a great company, and a friend of mine. We're a networking group, and so that's going to have a direct influence on her because now she'll have to increase all of her bids to people because there's a new tax.
Yeah, I mean, this is just basic economics, people. Study from Javier Milei about all this stuff. That was a callback to a thing we did earlier. We're talking about the guy from Argentina who's like this Ron Paul geek who just got elected the prime minister of Argentina. So, Jeff says paint tax shortfall from Whitmer's ban on paint during COVID. James Joe says tax paint because 70 plus some years ago, some paints included. Yet, yeah, that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all part of the green narrative too. They're just always looking for the boogeyman that's everywhere. So, Matt Wilkes says the worst bills are the ones that allow cities to make their own crazy laws. Rent control, banning plastic grocery bags are two of the dumbest. Yep, there's a bunch of those, including a bill to allow local gun bans. I don't think I saw action on the bill to allow local governments to impose plastic bag bans, but that was especially for the city of Ann Arbor because that's what happened when they passed the plastic bag ban. And it's crazy because people aren't going to be able to know the whole patchwork of all local laws. Local preemption is really it's an important principle, and it got kind of screwed over by the way Republicans embraced this local control message over schools, but that was because we're talking about schools versus the feds, the state government. Yeah, when you're at that level, local government's best, but having every single local government passing all kinds of arbitrary restrictions, what you can and can't do, what you can and can't have, what you can and can't trade, it becomes a nightmare because now you've got this gigantic mass of local ordinances that nobody can understand and follow up properly.
They did pass that one bill though that actually takes away the cities to be able to make ordinances on some energy things, right? I haven't read all of it, but didn't they passed that bill?
They passed all of those, and that's another great one too because the local municipalities and their associations are all hopping mad about this. But yeah, they passed all of those. Let me find the bill numbers for that real quick, because that's definitely a huge one. In fact, there's also a bunch of bills got thrown in recently. House bills 5216 to 5222 to impose a socialist need-based energy pricing scheme. So there was that. But that wasn't the big package. The big package was 5120 to 5123 to allow state energy bureaucrats, the MPSC, the Michigan Public Service Commission, which basically is a puppet of the utility monopolies. Like their members are all from the utility monopolies. And yeah, they passed legislation to preempt local control over all of that and say we can put wind and solar wherever we want. In fact, there was some other bills I just saw recently that also say condominium associations, homeowners associations aren't allowed to pass things saying you can't have reserved parking for electric vehicle charge stations and things of that nature. But yeah, people that live in communities that have wind farms hate them. They look hideous. They're killing wildlife off. And at the end of the day, when they reach their end of life, they go to the dump like everything else does and just pollute anyway. But yeah, so what happens is all these local governments, I see signs in my neighborhood saying ban the industrial solar farms, and they've overruled them. And these associations, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Association of Counties, the Michigan Townships Association, these groups are all run by liberals because their institutional nature is they want money. We want money. Give us money. Give us money. So they're liberal by their nature. They are furious about this stuff. So, hey, a question for you, Emily. Mark Ashley Price asks: Is there like a Michigan Association of City Councils? I ask because I'm a school board member, and there's a Michigan Association of School Boards. The answer is the Michigan. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Emily, if you know the answer, but it's the Michigan Municipal League.
Yes, and actually, I'm going to training on the 30th with them.
Oh, cool. Well, see how far you get in that organization, because
I know.
Like I just said, but
I've
they
been
want
told
to get money. But they're very influential in Lansing. They really are.
They are. Yes, I've been told I will question a few things that they teach me, but that's okay.
Oh, you will. Yeah. I mean, the Michigan Clerks Association, all these local clerks are Republicans for the most part, but their leadership are Democrats, so that's just the way that goes. Anyway, what else do we got to talk about tonight? Jay asks, what if if every township, city, etc., could levy gas taxes? Yeah, I mean, that's what, and by the way, I know you just took the job, so forgive me if I'm saying, what is your agenda? I hate when people are like, congratulations, newly elected senator. What's your agenda going to be? It's like, I don't know yet. So if you're in that position, I want to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you've seen things happening locally that you want to do something about. So talk to our audience a little bit if you have things you want to.
Well, we also have a new mayor. So as you know, we have a new mayor because Kevin Coleman won the seat for mayor.
Yes, I did know that. Yes, I did know that.
Yep. So, which is why the session in Lansing ended, because they can't sit there with 54-54. Not a chance. So I did have a meeting, and I property taxes is my number one thing. I would like to see, and I need to have some questions and see if it's possible, how this could happen. But even if there was a change to the percent on taxes for even some of the people in Westland, that could make a difference, where they could actually get more money in their pocketbook. That would be something that I would like to see. I don't know how, but I did say that's something I want to explore, because our property tax rate in Westland is higher than surrounding areas. And I'm being told that part of it's because of the millages that have been passed and all these kind of things. But one area I was actually told that I might be able to make a difference in is because the current library millage, they don't actually need.
Yeah.
So there may be an opportunity that we can make some adjustments to that could actually make a difference to people. So I was like, yeah, let's see if we can have that conversation. And I think there was so besides property taxes, the other one is just in general getting a handle on the budget and find out where the leaks are.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those, I mean, first thing is, if you can even find it, I'm sure there's tons of funding for DEI and inclusion training and things of that nature that could probably be cut. But yeah, I mean, the message I would always have to people is, seriously, how much do you really use your library? I mean, most people, when they think about local governments, are thinking about zoning, roads, schools, That's about it. And other than that, like you wouldn't believe how much money our government spends on this, that, and the other. I was at where was your meeting, Patty, the other day? It was in Canton, I believe. And I looked at this building like this. This is a huge complex for not a huge city, but I'm sure they got someone to pay for that, and that someone's the taxpayers. There's a comment in the chat. Steve Gothal says, "Axe my tax." I'll tell you guys a story about Axe My Tax and why I'm a little hesitant about Axe My Tax. In the mid-90s, 1993, in fact, we had a very, very brilliant state senator named Debbie Stabenow. This was when John Engler was the governor, and he had run on a message of, I'm going to cut your local property taxes. That was his campaign platform. And up until that point, he really hadn't done much of that yet. And he was getting some pressure. So they had a bill that was to cut a bunch of like other taxes and things. In fact, hold on. You know what? I'm trying to find my notes here because I actually have this story written down from someone who who was a lawmaker in the legislature at the time. But Debbie Stabenow decided she was going to make a statement, and she ran an amendment and said, you know what, let's do this. How about we just eliminate the property taxes in Michigan altogether? And the Republicans were like, oh, it's, they were in the majority. Stabenow was not. So they were like, okay, well, no. And then the Senate Majority Leader, Dick Posthumus, gets a call from the governor, John Engler. And Engler says, I want that amendment. Run it. Adopt it. Do it. And Dick Posthumus is like, really? He's like, yes, do it. I want that amendment to go through. And so Dick Posthumus is like, okay, all right. we'll run that amendment. And they did. And then he calls the House Majority Leader, Paul Hilligans. And he was not quite so loyal to Engler as Posthumus was. But he went through it. The caucus voted for it. And House leadership passed it. Now, they went into session. This is on December 23rd, 1993. They went into session at 10 a.m. They had votes on a bunch of different little tax increases now to compensate for the revenue loss from it was Senate Bill 1, actually. It was in some fashion cutting taxes. And now Stabenow's amendment went through. Now it's to eliminate property tax in Michigan. So they had this vote at December 23rd, day before Christmas Eve, and they were going to cut, they had different options for raising taxes. Cigarette tax, transfer fees for vehicles, a variety of different things. And it was kind of put together as like an either or. Do you want this or do you want proposal A? And the legislature was like, let's do proposal A. And the thing about proposal A was written by Governor Engler. So Stabenow's stupid talking points memo amendment led to John Engler getting to rewrite the tax code in Michigan with proposal A. So here's the thing about Axe My Tax, guys. Wouldn't that do the same exact thing? If you eliminated all the property tax in Michigan, guess who gets to write the tax code to pay for schools? Gretchen Whitmer does. Oh. That's the problem. That's one of the problems with this Axe My Tax thing. Sounds great. And, you might have an opinion like maybe I do to say we shouldn't have any public schools, but we have them, and the voters are going to say we got to fund them somehow. So if you just cut off the property taxes, that puts the Democrats in the catbird seat to rewrite the whole tax code. I don't think that's a good strategy. Yeah, Matt says, if you limit the property tax, you'll get 100% get a graduated income tax. Yep, that's right. Paula Nacky says the ballot language goes to the State Board of Canvassers November 29th. Lovely. But will they get the signatures is the other question. Anyway, so that's, yeah. Well, Emily, just to be open-ended on this, because I didn't have a prepared set of questions for you other than to congratulate you on your win. But since you're on the program, if there's other stuff you want to talk about, by all means, this is your opportunity. And you're always welcome back on this show another time too.
Yes, actually, I do apologize for being late. It was this one issue is really big right now. It's just the one big thing. So I was on the phone with many of the other council members, and I'm like, is there another way? Is there another way to get a win-win that you don't compromise the process? The thing
that you need to worry about is They're gonna try to run all kinds of plays where it's either this is popular and you need to support it even though it's against your principles, or it's going to be or you take your stand. But then the tough thing is they're gonna run things that are sexy to voters. Oh, she voted against library funding, and you have to make the argument to these people, like, actually let the voters decide. If there's a better way. It's really, really hard for our side a lot of the time to frame things well when they get tough votes. Things like enshrining gender identity as a protected class in the Constitution. Republicans like, oh, I don't know how I can sell that to voters. It's a popular thing. They're going to show you polls that say how popular this is. And the thing you got to fall back on is your ability to knock on doors and keep connected to the voters, and being able to stay on the attack on finding the moral righteousness in all these things. Like we watched these, we watched this clip where in the beginning of the show where there was a debate in Congress over a bill to kill, to put a device in cars that the car can shut itself off with AI if the car thinks you're drunk by not knowing. And the Democrats just lying are like, this is to prevent drunk drivers and this is going to keep us safe. And then at one point, one of them says, this is Thomas Massey's Drunk Driver Protection Act. And someone has to go to the voters and say, actually, this is a thing that's going to have all kinds of crazy false positives and strand you in your car and could kill you if your car tells you can't drive it. Stephen Gothal says, Adam has been wrong before. I've been wrong many times before. But I have not lost many bets on this channel. I will remind you, Stephen. I did not make any bets about Emily's race. But
that's good. I know you didn't.
I have made bets.
I remember when I met you in 2020, you were like, you're never,
well, you're running for different office.
Yes, I did. But actually, it's actually funny. In 2020, I ran against the current mayor now. So we ran against each other in 2020, and now we work together.
Yeah. Well, of course, you won't really be working together. You'll be working against each other. And try to remember that, because they're good at being seductive, and they're good at playing the because Republicans will have two faces, or Democrats will have two faces. They'll have the face of, we can find common ground and yada yada. But when election season comes, they're out for your blood. They're going to run someone against you. They're going to put all their money on it and all the rest.
Good thing Republicans aren't two-faced.
They're two-faced in the opposite way, though. They're two-faced with our own side, not with the Democrats. They want to work with the Democrats.
Right.
Kelly Fountain says Whitmer wants to uncap the taxes. Yeah, there was some bill about that I just saw recently, too. Let's see if I can find it here.
Uncap the taxes. Yes, currently it's an emotional situation because, when someone comes in, I mean, we see it in the presidential, they come in and they change the entire staff, right? And obviously that's one of the concerns is it's jobs. And so some of the emotional attachment right now is that there are people's jobs that are affected by this decision.
Yeah. So, I mean, every single time, I mean, one thing I would tell lawmakers that got elected is, with every single bill you look at, you have to imagine, who is this bill going to destroy? Because you never know. People are on the margins. A little bit more taxes is someone's inability to pay rent, someone's inability to pay a bill, someone's inability to keep their job, a regulation, all these things. I mean, there's real world consequences for every single thing that they do, even the things that look like they're small. So anyway.
Yes.
Well, Emily, you're welcome to stay on the show for as long as you like. We were going through some of the worst bills in Lansing this whole year. And I want to show people, we actually do have some funny tags that might, and I think I'm going to revisit my idea of going through the entire list. In fact, it's already after 10 o'clock, so let's not do that tonight. But I will show you. I'm in the process, and Patty's been helping me, of tagging all of the bills so that they're easy to sort through. And if you go to Rescue Machine, I got to get rid of that John James flyer on our homepage. Yeah,
that's all down.
We're going to be catching up on things over the holidays, folks, including building more. I mean, there's a cycle to things, and we've been in the thick of the legislative cycle, but now we're in the holiday season. That's the time for fine tuning and expanding tools and catching up on stuff that was left behind. But anyway, so if we go to Operation Watchdog here,
a question though.
Yes.
I have heard that all the red flag laws, that there is a group basically waiting until they become in effect in February, and then there will be lawsuits against them because they're not constitutional. Are there any others that have been passed that you would say fall into that same category that possibly people are going to be filing lawsuits against them?
I would say there's a lot of things people should be filing lawsuits on, but I can't say that people will be filing lawsuits on. I think one of the most odious bills, and this is another one on the worst bills of the year that just passed in the final days a week or so ago, was the Democrats passed bills unanimously, of course, to criminalize quote unquote materially deceptive political ads, which means Dana Nessel can say your ad's false. Here's a felony charge for you, which is instantaneously a news story. Instantaneously, your campaign is crippled. Instantaneously, you've now got more to worry about keeping yourself out of felony prison charges than winning office. And that's what they did. And they, of course, knew exactly why they were doing it. That, I think, is one of the most dangerous, un-American violations of the First Amendment, suppression of political speech, suppression of campaigns. That is extremely dangerous. But is someone going to file suit? Well, I hope someone with $1 million or so is going to be able to do that. We may, in fact, that might be something that rises to the level of something that can be, at least, see, the nice thing about constitutional lawsuits is they're not really discovery intensive. Like the most expensive part of litigation is discovery and when you have disputes over fact and that kind of stuff. But challenging the constitutionality, you file a lawsuit, you file a brief, there might be something that someone can do about that. And I hope some First Amendment organization like ACLJ or Alliance Defending Freedom or any of these other groups is going to do something about that.
That would be my next question is if we can identify the groups that make sense to actually file lawsuits and make sure that they are watching this and they're seeing it, we can get some people behind it.
I mean, the challenge is that there's just so many things that they're doing on all fronts. Like, right. And another one would be the Great Lakes Justice Center, for example. But like I remembered when I worked for John Riley in Lansing, we had this horrible story about Lucas Gerhard, this constituent of his, who was facing felony charges for making terrorist threats because he made a joke among friends about his legally owned rifle. And we reached out to like the Alliance Defending Freedom about this, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education about this. We're like, this is a crazy case. Who's going to help this kid? And they're all like, sorry, we're too busy. I mean, their caseload, their bandwidth is just so limited. There's not enough of them out there. So just because the case even is ripe and looks like it should be great does not mean that it's going to, something that we can do. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested in trying to start like a Rescue Michigan C3 organization that could do that kind of stuff. But the question is, who are you going to hire for your lawyer to do that kind of stuff? So I don't know. Something to think about, something to look into. Some of the other election-related bills that they've done recently are also really, really, really bad. Because another one was they passed a bill that basically limits your ability to challenge the results of an election. That you cannot challenge the results of the presidential election, and you can only challenge other elections in the Court of Claims. Paula says Dan Hartman. But we'll see. I mean, these are cases that the Michigan Republican Party should be filing suit about, but maybe the RNC would. I don't know. Anyway, this lovely Operation Watchdog tool we have here. When you're looking through bills, we actually have these different tags on all of the different bills. Not all of them just yet. We're working on getting through them all, catching up because
some of them were hard. Some of them, and then I was thinking of some like, oh, is this one here? And it wasn't there. I didn't want to add any of them though.
Yeah, we're doing our best to give every bill every appropriate tag, but it's tough to do. But for any tag, you can also click on the tag. So if you click on like elections, you can see all of the bills tagged elections.
Why don't you click on creepy?
Let's look at creepy. That's a great one to look at. If you look at just, there's a good talking points memo section. And these are all bills that are like involving sex and that kind of stuff. So some of these are just revoking license for professionals convicted of misconduct, criminalizing irreversible sex change procedures in children, but then also we got a bunch of stuff prohibiting minors from marrying. Make it a crime to harass a vulnerable adult that causes the person to provide pornography, regulations on rape kits. This is a crazy one. This is This is one that a lot of Democrats signed onto. This is a bill to make it so that if, let's say, you're at a bar and you're flirting with a lady, and you take the lady home, and in bed she whips her dick out, and so you smack her across the face to get her out of your house, you can't use the defense that, oh my God, she almost raped me. That's what this bill is intended to target. Sexual orientation or gender identity of victim as a defense to a crime, prohibit. That's what the bill does. So there's that. Here's a lovely bill. Removing HIV screenings for frequent blood donors, because if you give blood a lot, you want to make sure you're not also spreading a dangerous illness. Let's not have that. That would be discriminatory against people with HIV who probably shouldn't be donating blood.
These all passed?
No, not all of them. But some of them did. Some of them have. This one passed the House, 5653. The one about that one I just mentioned.
So ultimately they're dead though, because session is done.
No, there's a session next year. They're only done for the year.
They have to be reintroduced though.
Nope. Only the session doesn't end until the end of next year.
I thought
they will come back into session on January 10th if they can they can scrounge up a vote from one or two Republicans on this, then they can continue. And if not, they can wait until after the special election, which will probably be in May. And if they get the majority back in the House, then they can proceed onward. So that's how that goes. Here's the bill to legalize child sexual mutilation and mandate health insurance pay for killing babies. That passed both chambers. That'll be signed by the governor any day now. Yep, that passed the Senate on November 7th. Requiring pornographic websites require anything that's involving sex. Typically, I would just tag as creepy. Although this one is not sex related, but here's a lovely one. Isn't this another good one to talk to your family about? Right. By the way, folks, allow students to be treated with marijuana products during school.
What?
There you go. In fact, let's see what the text.
I believe it can be given. It can be administered by anyone the parent allows.
I think so. Let's see what it says.
It was really open-ended, so it could have been like. I don't think there's any restriction on who can actually do it.
A designated staff member can. The people themselves can self-administer the drug.
Yes.
And let's see here. Copy of the qualified pupil's written certification for the use of the. This is great. A public school or non-public school must not authorize a designated staff member to administer or supervise the use of a marijuana-infused product unless a qualified guardian of the public pupil provides the school with all the following: a written copy of the qualified pupil's written certification for the use of the marijuana product. Okay, so the kid themselves can say, yeah, I'm good with taking some pot during school. And there you are, folks. A public school shall not discipline a pupil solely because they engaged in the activity of taking pot in school under this section. There you go. So a marijuana infused product, which also includes marijuana. There's that. So there's that bill. And there's a companion bill to that too. Here's another lovely one, mandating that public schools promote organ donation companies. That got thrown in there. There is, of course, the government distribution, taxpayer-funded. We covered this a week or so ago. Heroin needles for certain, and as I read the law, or the bill, crack pipes would be covered too. Allowing X as a sex designation on your driver's license, state ID, and birth certificate. They've got that. Some other sex-related ones, prohibiting invasive bodily exams on unconscious patients. Jeff says Snoop Dogg amendment. Yep. I heard Snoop quit marijuana, but I've heard he's said that before, so who knows? What else do we have here? I mean, the others are, well, I don't know. Some of these are pretty creepy. Requiring, I got creeped out just reading them. Requiring consent and witness for invasive procedures on minors. Not that it's a bad bill, but it's creepy to even think about. It's amazing how many bills lawmakers are talking about. Here's a big one. This is the last bill introduced in the Senate before they adjourn for the year. Legalizing assisted suicide. So there you go.
Well,
have a lot more Jack Kevorkians in Michigan soon.
I was going to say, Kevorkian would be happy.
Oh, I'm sure he is. And that's not to say that, I mean, I've heard people say, you know what, there are diseases that you die in agony if you can't end your life early, and I sympathize with that. But at the same time, there's also Canada just like, oh, you're screwed. Just end your suffering. It's so much cheaper and easier, and better.
There's a lot of pain management, though.
Yeah. And just to tell you folks a personal story, my grandfather, when shortly before he passed away, he tried to kill himself twice with sleeping pills. And after the first time, we got a full-time live-in assistant to take care of him, who he loved and cherished. And in the end, died in hospice in her arms. And that was a far, far better way to die than a drug overdose that was self-administered and failed. So yeah, assisted suicide is, I'm not saying there's not any role for it whatsoever, but you know how the Democrats are going to exploit that in all kinds of terrifying ways, the way Canada has. Another good category of tags to check out, by the way, besides creepy elections, there's also this other funny one, leftism. So we can look at that one. These are just generally bills to implement the radical left wing's agenda. So you've got stuff like, obviously, legalizing abortion, creating a sexual orientation civil right, make ethnicity as opposed to national origin a civil right and define it as anything you want. That's a funny one. Provide a tax credit to donate to political campaigns. We threw that one in there. A lot of these are just some of these are talking point memos from Democrat things, like all the environmentalist stuff. Allowing creation of HOV lane restrictions. That's a law now, by the way. There'll be HOV lanes coming soon. There's a plastic bag ban. Steven says they sure like killing humans, babies, old people, whatnot. Yeah, I mean, that is the agenda, folks. Not every Democrat understands this, but at the top, it's humans are a parasite on the world. And the fewer of them there
That's
are,
the
the
common denominator.
It is.
Yeah.
And they need to get us down to 1 billion, right?
Fewer if we could. I'm sure Bill Gates. I mean, these people have these crazy transhumanist cult ideas, and technology is going to make humans obsolete, and all of this rabble, this filth in countries like India and China. The fewer people we had, the better. That's what the agenda has always been, is to prevent, or at least restrict, or at least discourage people from procreating. That's what it's all about.
You should hear my conversations on Wednesday night during my international relations class with this guy who believes in the base income, the mandatory universal based income. Oh my gosh. I keep asking him, like, what would people do? He's like, well, they would just live. I'm like, but what would they do? and even when we talk about robots taking over,
where's the money come from to pay for this if people decide
exactly.
they need to work?
Right. And then he's like, well, robots will do the work. I go, then why do we need people? Oh, but they'd have all this base income. I'm like, from where? And I keep, it is a very interesting conversation.
Wow.
Debate.
Yeah, John King says the assisted suicide will make your single payer system more affordable. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. Paula says, did you see the agenda for the December 2nd Republican State Committee meeting? Kalamazoo County Party leadership is on the menu. We'll come back to that topic in another stream, Paula. That's another.
I haven't seen it, Paula. Can you forward it to me? I'm not getting all the emails.
I actually have to run. I do have to run now. So I have dogs barking, and I got to help my husband do something. So, but thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
I will try to come back again, maybe give some city council updates. And
please do let us know.
Awesome.
Yes. All right. Nice seeing you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Speaking of dogs, by the way, you might have noticed there was a dog on my couch at the beginning of the show. I put the couch in the backdrop because people say they want to see my dogs more. If you want to see that dog more,
I think we saw them more when the couch wasn't there and they would walk back and forth.
Yeah. It's something weird about them. Like, they have a sixth sense. When I'm talking to my computer, they just don't bother me. They just leave the room. So, but anyway, Boston needs a dog sitter because I'm going to be out of town from Wednesday to Wednesday. So if any of you folks in the audience would like, and if it's one of you that I know personally would trust, reach out because
well, it's not me.
I know it's not you, Patty. I would have asked you if I thought there was even the slightest chance you would like to have a dog for a week.
Their dogs are like this big.
Yeah, but my dogs are not that big. But they are, a temporary dog can be a fun thing. I actually, when I was looking for a puppy before I got Dante, I was on Craigslist, and I found a listing where someone just said, I'm going out of town for a couple of weeks and someone watched my dog. And so I had like this temporary dog for a couple of weeks. Actually, I'll put him on the screen too, because he's very cute. Let's see here. Now I share this. This was the dog I had for like 2 weeks. The one on the right. The one on the left is the one that you could have for a week if you'd like. So
you too can have this dog.
Yeah. But no, they're a lot of fun. So there you go. All right. Guys.
Very cute.
Help me out if you can, because I called every animal boarding place, and they're all it's Thanksgiving. They're all like, sorry, we have a 50,000 person wait list. You're screwed. I should have thought of that earlier, but I didn't. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, bad bills. Here we go. These are the bills tagged with leftism, and there's lots of these. Oh, this is strange. You know what? Why is this in here? Because it's an Angela Regas bill. Oh, because it's talking about ESG. So not every bill in a tag is on one side of an issue. It might be on a topic. So this is a bill to restrict ESG investments in public employee funds. Allow students to skip school for a given number of mental health days. There's another bill somewhere in here to make recess a class that counts for credit in schools.
What?
Yeah, there's a bill. Let me see if it's on this page. I think it is. It's here somewhere. I'll check the education link in a minute here, but I know there was. Let me see if I can find it on my spreadsheet here. Let's see here. Recess. Yeah, okay. House Bill. We'll look this up in a second here. House Bill 5081. Hold on. Let me pull it up. $50.81. Count recess as pupil instruction time. And there's the official description of it right here. Time pupils spend at recess, allowed to be counted as pupil instruction time. Sponsored by Republican Graham Filler. And the co-sponsors, other than Robert Bizot, are all Democrats. There you go. Yeah, recess, certainly social interaction. Yeah, social interaction they can get when they're outside of school, not paid for by our money. But there you go, folks. It just never stops. So lots and lots and lots of bills we could look through. We could be here all night even. Let's not do that. Let's call this a stream. We've been going for almost an hour and a half. My gosh. Create a registry to shame employers who relocate call centers to foreign countries. There you go. That's a fun one. That's for companies trying to save money that they can pass on to their consumers. If you want to have a call center that's staffed by Americans, call DTE or consumers, because guess what? Your tax dollars pay for their expenditures, so they don't need to go to a foreign country, so they'll just bill you for it. Allowing violent felons to receive taxpayer-funded tuition grants, allowing incarcerated criminals to receive taxpayer-funded scholarships, allowing
I thought we were calling it a stream.
Huh?
I thought we were calling it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're almost at the bottom of this list.
Okay.
More attorney general powers, the energy price, we talked about that already. Increasing penalties for car accidents involving bicyclists. Restricting charter schools' ability to advertise and market themselves, mandating at one point, there's some bill here somewhere that mandates that they post their employees' salaries. Weaken courts' ability to promote post-conviction DNA testing. Prohibit those affiliated with groups labeled hate groups to become police officers. There's a great one for you. We wouldn't want to have any unindoctrinated police officers or say FBI agents. Stephen says, how's about a part-time legislature? Stephen, Republicans have introduced like 3 constitutional amendments on that this year. Funny thing is, when they were in power, they never brought those bills up for hearing. They loved having a full-time legislature when they were in charge. So it's all top-line messaging. It's all a bunch of nonsense. I'm not impressed with a lot of this top-line messaging crap the Republicans do. When they adjourn for the year, they put out all these statements. How dare they adjourn for the year? We have business to get done. And they put in events like cut their staff pay, cut their pay. It's like, we all know you guys are happy they adjourned. You guys are as grateful as everybody else that they adjourned. But I understand messaging. And besides that, the sanctimony of government's not to be questioned. So presumably people want the legislature to be in session all year, right? Right. So yeah, not a huge fan of all that posturing and preening and things that the Republicans have been doing, putting in bills they know aren't going to get anywhere. In fact, there's even a category for that, by the way, folks. I made it, which you're willing to look through, called no intention of passage. These are bills that Republicans put in that they know aren't going to go anywhere. And sorry if any of the good guys are on these lists, because I know you guys think you have to do it, but a lot of these bills, Herbert sanctuary fees. What pisses me off about these bills is when they're in the majority, they don't pass any of these things. I threw out all the kick China bills I threw in there because they know they're just doing this for messaging for their base. They knew they're not going to get anywhere. But look at us being tough on China. Look at us being tough on this. Look at us putting in bills to prohibit the Capitol Commission from banning a individual for carrying a concealed firearm. We know when the Republicans get the majority back, they're not going to undo the gun ban at the Capitol. We know it. Stop pretending. So that's why I throw all these bills in this whole no intention of passage category. If you want to, if you're going to do that because it's your top line messaging for your base, fine. But don't think you're going to use my website to fool people. So that's why I threw that category in there. But at least you don't have people like Kelly Fountain's representative who still always votes with Dems. A lot of them don't. I mean, a lot of them do. In fact, we can look at that spectrum because we have a lovely tool on our website right here to see how often any given Republican votes with Democrats. And we've got, you see the Democrats, their scores are astronomically cohesive. The most no votes of any of them are from Dylan Wegela, who only votes with his caucus 89% of the time, but everybody else is in the 96 plus category. The Republican side, on the other hand, range from Neil Frisky, who votes with the Democrat majority only 5.3% of the time, to Mike Mueller, Mark Tisdale, Graham Filler, and Kathy Schmaltz, who vote with them most of the time. And a whole lot of others whose scores are pretty dang close. Senate, same story. The most dissenting Democrat in the Senate voted with the Democrats 98% of the time. Whereas on the Republican side, the ones who are the most dissenting were at 20%, Jim Runstead, Jonathan Lindsay. And then it just goes towards some of these who, again, vote with the Democrats almost most of the time. Mark Huizenga being the worst, then Michael Weber, John DeMoose, Roger Victory. No surprise with any of those people, by the way. At least not for me. So there you go, folks. Use the tools. I'll be building more of them soon because I know there's more things that I want the site to do. We'll get the tagging done. Probably start trying to do other fun stuff like being able to view votes as blocks and things like that. But anyway, Jessica, Patty, if there's anything you feel we didn't cover tonight, you're welcome to bring it up. But we've been going a while. My voice is starting to get tired. So thank you.
I mean, God help us here. I mean, I hope the day will come when we can, repeal all this or get rid of it because it's bad.
Yeah, I hate to say I'm not even optimistic if we got the majority back. Most of the damage would even be undone, but this
They
is
still haven't repealed. They never repealed Obamacare. How many times did they promise that?
No
right?
Kidding. No kidding. That's why we need more people like Emily Bauman who are going to be running for offices in everywhere, even in the seats we don't think we can win. We need people bringing these facts to voters, knocking on doors, telling them the truth, doing everything we can to get the word out. And, hopefully in the long run, even getting some of these rhinos to get the picture. So we shall see. Maybe some primary challenges would be good to have. But I'll leave that up to you guys.
Excuse me.
Addie, Jessica, and she already left, but Emily as well. Thank you, wonderful ladies, for joining me tonight.
So no show next week, I guess, right? If you're out of town.
Well, I will be out of town. I can't promise we will have a stream next Sunday, but in light of Paula's comment about the agenda for the upcoming state committee meeting, I do feel kind of obligated to have something to talk about next Sunday. So I will bring my streaming gear, or at least a piece of it. I will be in California, so the video quality will not be quite as good. Well, never mind. I was going to say something about the smell, but I'll be with my family, and I would not mean that seriously. So I won't say that. But we may have a stream next Sunday. In the meantime, folks, think about what you're going to say to your family. I know you all have family who, for the life of you, you cannot get to see things your way. So hopefully some of these tools will help you identify some of the most extreme, most insane things the Democrats have done this year and talk to them about it. Because, no two people agree on everything. And there's got to be something that your family does not want is not going to approve of what something the Democrats did. So, all right. Good night, guys. Thank you for
Thanks
all
for
your
having us.
service.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yes.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, be nice.
All right.